Now this is scary. Can't lie to you. We're going to dive into this here. Hold on a second. Had to get the knucklehead up here because he's like, Dad! Watch what happens. I got this on my new computer. If I move to the side, it moves with me. That's kind of creepy. Hi, Pablo. Anyway, so I'm reading this article. I'm going to share it with you. Hold on. Let's go over here. Click here. Oh, Pablo. And we'll go to this. Hey, buddy. Go to this paper. The Extraordinary Rise of Wealth of Older American Households by this guy, Edward Wolfe, from NYU. So he's a smart guy because he works at NYU. And pretty good paper. I got an issue on one of it, and I'm not going to get into it here. But I think there's a mistake here, but it's okay. Who am I? I'm just a schmuck. Haven't showered today. Don't look my best. I got my pearly yellows. Got my t-shirt on that I haven't changed today. I got my hair. I haven't done anything. My hair is still a mess. Oh boy. I have brushed my chops. Just FYI, I have brushed them. But other than that, pew, smelling ripe. My goodness, Josh. Could you be somewhat professional? No, I can't. Anyway, so I want to show you down. Where did I find this? So we're going to go. Stop. We're going to come down here. Hold on a second. We're going to look at the median wealth of selected years 1983 to 2022. And this is in 2022 dollars. So remember, it's going to be much higher today because we've had two consecutive years, 23, 24 have been fantastic. This year, the S&P 500 is up 10% as well. So we've had significant growth over the last couple of years, but we're just going to use the data that it is because he's using a survey for consumer finances, which we'll dive in here in just a second. And the median, half the people have more, half the people have less, in 1983 was $93,000. And again, that's in 2022 dollars. It's not adjusted for inflation. It is. In 2022, it was 164,000. All right, so we've gone up, and you can see we've above inflation. It's a 1.44% growth above the rate of inflation. That's pretty good. All right, so if inflation is 3, we average 4.44. If inflation was 10, we average 11.44. Now, off the top of my head, I don't know what inflation was. We'll just say 3% for simplicity. Now, the interesting thing is, look, from 1983 to 2010, the median net worth went down, and rather significantly. Look at that. 1983 to 2010, it went down. Isn't that crazy? That's crazy. But watch what happens. From 2010 to 2022, right here, the net worth has grown from 2010 to 2019. The median net worth grew by 41.9%. And then over the last 3 years, and again, if we add the last 2 years, it's going to be even higher. They're about the same, probably. Over 40% when you factor, probably even more, because the last 2 years have been significant. So look at that. We've had 75% is a change in median net worth adjusted for inflation. So this is over top of inflation, 75%. But that all has come in the last 15 years. Now, the reason this one from 2010 to 2019 is so high is because it made up for what we got smoked this year right here, 2007 to 2010. So I just made it back even. But look at this, 36.7 over the last 3 years. And again, I probably put a 40, if not higher, over the last 5 years. That is frightening because look at this. The average growth rates, 1.39 from 1983 to 1999. 1999 to 2001, just an ass-kicking year, 1.5. 2001 to 2007, 2.9. And again, these are net of inflation. 2010 to 2019, 3.89. 2019 to 2022, 11.72. So much higher than the average from 1983 to 2022. That's kind of frightening. So, and the reason I say it is because we've had such a good run these last 15 years. How are we going to get that again? So check this out. I'm going to show you what I've been working on here. All right, so we're going to show you. Hold on a second. I want to share it. Yeah, right here. So look at this. This right here is in 1989. I could only get it going back 1989 in the Survey of Consumer Finances where they actually give you a visual data like this, so it's pretty cool. Less than 35 years old, in 2022 dollars, you had a net worth, a median net worth of $18,000 in 1989. In 2013, it fell to $13,000. So from 1989, that's 1989 to 2013, that's 14 years, right? No, 24 years. Yeah, 24 years. From 1990, 2000, 24 years. It fell 18,000 to 13,000. That's how bad, obviously, it was in 2007 and 8. But this is in 2013, amigos. And you can see the chart right there. 35 to 44-year-olds went down from 130 to 59. Let's see here. 45 to 44 years old went from 226 to 134. I mean, we're talking more than half. Let's see. 55 to 64 went from 226 to 216. So every single age group, except for 75 and older, and 65 to 74 went down, lost money from 1989 to 2013. 75 was 167, now they're at 248, 2013. 65 was 178, now they're at 295. Every single other age group went down from 1989 to 2013. Now watch this though. In 2022, less than 35, tripled their net worth from 13 to 39. 35 to 44 went from 60 to 135, more than doubled. 45 to 54 went from 134 to 246. 55 to 64 went from 210 to 384. 65 to 74 went from 295 to 410, and over 70 went from 240 to 248 to 335. To 334, excuse me. So my question is, how are we going to get those kind of numbers again? I don't see how you could expect that. How could you expect to get these kind of rates of return that we're seeing here on this? Well, here, let me show you this right here. How could you expect to get 11.72% annualized growth rate percentage above inflation for the last 3 years? And again, if you add the last 2 years, it's going to be probably 15, 14. I don't know what it's going to be, but significantly higher than that. On top of that, you had 3.89 from 2010 to 2019. Both of these are so significantly higher, not just in the average that we've had since 1982, but even in the years we had positive growth. So even take away this time frame from 2007 to 2010, 2.9, 1.5, 1.39. And that was the beginning of the globalist freaking mantra of the University of Chicago boys taking over the world and saying, free trade, it's going to be great. How are you going to get that again, man? On top of the video I just did with a shrinking populations, people just aren't freaking getting jiggy with their wives. We're not getting enough children out there. You can only immigrate so many people until you get some freaking scumbags that are driving with CDLs that Governor Newsom had issued, and they're killing people. You can only have immigrants come in and cut your labor costs so much. No, but AI, it's kind of like battery power, dude. We're going to have battery power. We won't even need electricity. We'll just have it all from the sun. We'll be able to store it. I cannot believe people still make that argument, but they do. They do because they just want to believe. I want to believe. I want to believe. And the same thing here. It's like, where is this growth going to come from to warrant those kind of rates of return of net worth? I don't see. And even worse, so if you actually look, the debt that, hold on a second. Here's the debts. You can see all the way down here. We'll say 75, well, actually, those guys are fine. We'll say 55 to 64, 21.9 and 2022 thousands of dollars. 55, I say, okay, 55 to 64. Right here. Now it's 90. That's a quadrupling of debt. We got these guys right here, the whatever color that is. Less than 30. What is that? Is that less than 35? We'll do the purple. 45 to 54. 55,000 in 1989. 140,000 now. Green is who? Green is 35 to 44. 69. And now it's 140. More than doubling. I can't. That guy. 55 to 64. 21.9. We already talked about that. Let's see. This guy right here, the upside down triangle. 11 upside down triangle is 42. I know 42. Upside down triangle is what? 45. So, look, I'm just saying you better protect your assets first and foremost, B, you better be getting out of debt. Secondly, that's for a fact, because if we're relying on the performance of the net worth to grow over above inflation, when the debt levels are growing as well, that means your assets are growing higher than the cost to service those assets. That's great when that happens, but as we can see by many, 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 many instances throughout human history, when that time goes the exact opposite, when your assets aren't growing as much as the cost of services debt. On top of that, you got to pay taxes on the accumulation of those assets via capital gains, reinvestments, dividends, or capital gains, dividends, interest income. Is it going? That is weird. I was doing that. I kind of like it, but I got to kind of get used to it. Anyway, you got to pay tax, which reduces the accumulation of assets over inflation when you have to pay tax on that. Look, I'm not a nervous Nelly at all. I just think we've had it so good for the last 15 years. I think people are just getting, I don't know, man, complacent. What's the word? Displacent? Oh, I can't remember what that word is. Stable, not stable. You know what I'm talking about. Complacent? Yeah, complacent. No, just borrow, invest it, take on debt to spend. I'll spend now, consume. Dude, I know the feeling. Trust me. I know the feeling about consuming now while you got the money. Trust me, I do. Thankfully, I have enough assets. I think I'm going to be okay because most of my assets are pretty secure. And I don't have that much debt relative to my asset base. But if I had a high debt level and I'm expecting my asset base to grow significantly above inflation and the cost to service that asset level, i.e. through debt interest payments, dude, that's going to be tough, man. That's going to be tough. I just think it's going to be in a scenario where we're going to have low growth, low inflation, and those aren't good for and not that many people employed. And when I say this, I'm talking mass unemployment, not that at all, but a lowering growth, a lower inflation, which means your asset levels are going to grow less, most likely, but yet your debts are growing probably more than your asset levels. Anyway, we'll see. But that is what concerns me about future retirement planning. It's like, man, scenarios. If this were to happen, if the debts are growing higher than the assets, that is bad. And we haven't had that. As we show in that paper, we've had assets growing significantly higher than the debts. And I'm not sure that can keep on, especially with the world that we're facing the next 50 years, a massively depopulated world. You can only squeeze out so much juice from that orange via free trade, globalization before you say, we can't squeeze this anymore. And then people say, well, AI, I get it, man. I've heard these all before. All right. God bless. Love your thoughts. Smash that like button. We'll see you